Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Louder. Do you know why you are here today? What an exciting and historic occasion for Alberta. Let's make some noise. Thank you for coming today. My name is Josephine Pond. I will be your MC for today's afternoon's event. Again, thank you for coming out and on this very sunny, beautiful, hot Saturday. During the past year, many of you have been very generous in your support. But as you know, these events are costly. To help this cause, our volunteers, as you can see, they will be passing out buckets. Anything you can do to contribute towards our cause would be greatly appreciated. Please throw in $1, a toonie, $20, and anything you can do. But remind you that we do accept $50 and $100 bill. No Visa card, sorry. Everything helps. Thank you for your tremendous support. By the way, if you are not a member yet and you haven't signed up yet, please do. We have a volunteer outside at the reception, have the form, so please sign up today before you leave. Also, please, one more task for you. Text Unity to 587-600-2296 to show your support. I'm sure you have been doing that for many times. Please do it one more time. The number is 587-600-2296. I would like to take a moment and recognize some special guests joining us this afternoon. And I will be getting a list later on. So I'm going to move legs. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask Mr. Todd, are we ready? So we are getting ready outside now. And this is such an amazing event. What do you think? How do you feel today? Are you excited? Make some noise for me. Look at all this volunteer. Are they amazing? I would like to ask all of you, give a big round of applause for this volunteer and show our UCD how strong we are. How many people here come from out of town? Please raise your hand. Oh, okay. Where are you from? Cortland? Well, that's a long way. Anybody else a little bit farther than Cortland? Where you come from, sir? No? Oh, you too? Oh, well, it got to be a nice drive today. I'm sorry? The one, where is it? Oh, you too? No, it's a grocery day today. You have to come out to Calgary and buy grocery. It's a grocery day. Anyways, anybody from that side or from the different out of town? Where are you from? Oh, wow. That is far. That's anyways, while we're waiting for the list, and we're gonna sing at Old Canada. We're gonna sing Old Canada first? Okay. Oh well. Okay. And so have you guys seen that? Do you know that Jason that was in Edmonton this morning? Have you? Yes, come on. Yeah, well, I saw the Twitter. So it's just an amazing event. And of course, guess what? We are big here. It's a really amazing. So we're still working on it. Okay, so anyways, while we're waiting, what do we want to talk about? Are you going to sing? Jennifer, no? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think that our beautiful young lady who's going to sing O Canada is ready for us. So ladies and gentlemen, please rise and welcome Jennifer Cap for the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Now, what I would like to do is introduce you to our former MOA, Heather Forsyth, who will be introduced a very special guest this afternoon for us, Ms. Forsyth.
Thank you, everyone, and it's a pretty historic day, isn't it? And I have to tell you I'm nervous, but I'm proud, awfully proud to be here. I want to welcome everybody to the beginning and the end of Rachel Notley's NDP government. Now, it's my pleasure, and quite frankly, it's my honor, to be with you today to introduce my very good friend, Jason Kenney. You know Jason. He's the guy who gave up his seat in Parliament last year to come straighten out this mess that this government was in. Remember last July when Jason started his unity mission? All the pundits said, mission impossible, won't happen, and it can't be done. Well, friends, guess what? They were wrong. Now, a year ago, Jason revealed his 5-point plan, and he just keeps checking off those boxes. First of all, he won the PC leadership. Then he negotiated a unity agreement with the Wild Rose. It's an agreement. This is an agreement all the so-called experts again said was impossible. Does anyone here think we'd have a united Conservative Party today if Jason Kenney didn't make it its mission? Our party exists because of Jason's leadership, because of Jason's relentless drive, because he had the experience to bring it all together, and because, quite frankly, you all supported him. Now, some people were surprised that actually Jason managed to accomplish what he set out to do a year ago. For those of us who know Jason well, and they know Jason's history, we aren't, and we weren't, the least bit surprised. When Prime Minister Harper needed someone to do an important job, to clean up a mess left by the Liberals, who did he choose? Jason Kenney. When Liberal leader Stephen Dion promised to slap a carbon tax on Albertans nearly a decade ago, it was Jason leading the Conservative counterattack. And remember, we had an Albertan as Prime Minister for nearly a decade, in large part because of Jason Kenney's work. Jason, yes. Jason was the not-so-secret weapon in bringing voters into our Conservative family. Now, I've been asked many times to tell you why I like Jason, why I respect Jason, and why I'm supporting Jason. So here it is in a nutshell from me. I've always felt him to be warm, friendly, funny, honest, compassionate, a fighter, a hard worker, loyal to his family, loyal to his friends, loyal to his constituents, loyal to his province, and loyal to his country. That's why I like Jason Kenney. So I find it odd when some people claim that Jason was away from Alberta while he was in Ottawa. Well, seriously, folks, it's the MP's job to be in Ottawa. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can be further from the truth. As a Calgary MLA during the much of the same period Jason was an MP, I dealt with Jason personally, and I can tell you Alberta was always at the front of his mind. And I'll tell you, Jason was fighting for Albertans long before he became an MP. So here's a question for you. Why doesn't Alberta have a sales tax like other provinces? Because the young Jason Kenney, as head of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, helped write and pass the Alberta Taxpayers Protection Act. Alberta... Now, Alberta actually has an actual law requiring a referendum before any government tries to implement a sales tax. Jason was fighting for the Alberta he loves when he was in his 20s, and he hasn't stopped since. Now, we should take nothing for granted, nothing. But I'm confident the United Conservatives will be victorious in 2019. Yeah. And let me tell you, Jason Kenney is Rachel Notley's worst nightmare. And I know that from a fact from sitting in the legislature. But we're just not voting for the person to face off against the NDP. We're picking the next premier. We're picking the person who has to clean up their mess. We can't afford to gamble on someone inexperienced again. We're seeing now just how that works. So let me ask you this. Who's the guy ready to walk into the Premier's office on day one and hit the ground running? Right. Who has the experience running big, complicated files with multi-billion-dollar budgets? Who has the experience standing up to bureaucrats and special interest? Who's the guy with the experience fighting for hardworking taxpayers for decades? Well, again and again, it's Jason Kenney. Another question. Who has the experience fighting Liberals in Ottawa? Of course. We Albertans have fought the Liberals in Ottawa before. Peter Lougheed fought Pierre Trudeau's National Energy Program. Ralph Klein fought Jean Chrétien's Kyoto Protocol. But today, we have a government here in this province that isn't standing up against the Liberals in Ottawa. Quite the opposite. Alberta's current premier is Justin Trudeau's #1 ally. And you know what, folks? That needs to change. Now, here's another little secret. The last person the Trudeau Liberals want to see running Alberta is? Right. Albertans need an experienced fighter, and that fighter is Jason. And it is my pleasure today to introduce to you my good friend, your future leader, and the next premier, Jason Kenney.
Montana, Ian Tyson sang a lonesome lullaby. And so I cranked at the radio, 'cause there's just a little more to go. Oh, I crossed the border at that sweetgrass vine. I'm Alberta bound, yes, she's the heaven that I found. Rocky Mountains and Blackbird Brown, everything I need that blue sky. It doesn't matter where I go, this place will always be my home. Yeah, I've been Alberta bound for all my life, and I'll be Alberta bound till I die. It's a pride that's been passed down to me, deep as coal mines, wide as farmers' fields. Yeah, I've got independence in my veins. Maybe it's my down home redneck roots, so these dusty old Alberta boots that like to sit when he comes back again. I'm Alberta bound.
All right. Well, thank you, Calgary. Thank you so much, my fellow Albertans. Isn't that a great song, Alberta Bound? I love this province. Thank you so much, Josephine, and a special thank you to my dear friend, Heather, who has been a remarkable elected servant of Albertans, a woman of strong principle, tenacity, and courage, and I am so honored to have you in my corner, Heather. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for coming out on a beautiful July evening to talk about the future of this magnificent province that we all call home. But before we do that, I was listening just in the back to this really well done rendition of O Canada. Congratulations. And it reminds me that we are celebrating, of course, the 150th anniversary of the Confederation of the great Northern Dominion. Now, Justin Trudeau says that Canada has, quotes, no national identity. Believe it or not, he actually said that. And he seems to think that Canada 150 is all about apologizing for our past. Well, he could not be more wrong. I know that we have a proud identity rooted in our history, and that Canada 150, I believe, should be about gratitude for those who have gone before us, for those who have built this great country. And the finest of those Canadians who have helped to build this country are those who have defended it in Canada's uniform. And so I would like to begin this event by asking all of those who serve now or who have served in the past in the uniform of the Canadian Armed Forces to stand up so that we can thank you during this 150th year of our Confederation. Stand up. Give them a big hand. Thank you, guys. These fine Canadians remind us that freedom is never free, that we must fight for what we value most, and that service to our fellow citizens is the highest calling. Let us also, on this theme of gratitude, be grateful for those who went before us to build this home we call Alberta, for the Aboriginal people who were the first to create communities in this rugged place, pour les voyageurs, les métis, les oblates, les Canadiens, tous animés par l'esprit de liberté, for the Mounties who brought with them here the rule of law, for the ranchers who settled rugged terrain from the Cypress Hills to the eastern slopes, for the fur traders like the Shaban family from Lebanon who built the first mosque in North America up in Edmonton and whose grandson went on to be the first Muslim elected and appointed to a cabinet anywhere in North America in Peter Lougheed's government. To the merchants like the Kwong family from Canton, whose son, Normie, went on to become our Lieutenant Governor. For those who Sir Clifford, who John Macdonald, Minister of Immigration, called men in sheepskin coats, who left the steppes of Ukraine to plow virgin soil in our parkland and dotted it with their beautiful onion-domed churches. For the oilmen, the engineers, the roughnecks, and the geologists who came here from the United States and around the world to turn our resources into riches, to our newest Albertans, like Josephine Pon, our MC, and her family, all of them, all of us, together, have built one of the most prosperous and generous societies in all of human history. You see, I believe that Alberta isn't just a random collection of people or an accident of history, but rather that it is an idea of a place animated by hard work and enterprise, by the creative power of economic freedom, by thrift and personal responsibility, a place where how hard you work and how you treat others matters infinitely more than who your father was or where you came from, how you pray, or who you love. This is a compassionate society that understands that wealth cannot be redistributed to the less fortunate unless it is created by someone's hard work in the first place. But I am here tonight because I believe that idea of Alberta is under assault. It is being damaged every day by an ideological government that takes its inspiration from the failed theories of socialism, by a resentment of success, a distrust of enterprise, a mistaken belief that a powerful state is a greater force for good than strong families and a robust civil society. And they're wrong. They're wrong. And because of their ideological agenda, too many of our fellow Albertans are hurting, are going through a time of adversity. Nearly 200,000 of them are looking for work, and many others have given up. Tens of thousands of full-time jobs have been lost since the NDP came to office. And thousands of hardworking Albertans, including talented young people, have just given up and left our province that used to be the magnet for wealth creators, risk takers, hard workers, and entrepreneurs. But every month we've lost thousands of people when we always were the fastest growing population in Canada. We've experienced near record levels of bankruptcies and insolvencies as thousands of small businesses, whose owners are the unsung heroes of our economy, are barely hanging on. All of this because of a government that has poured gasoline onto the fire of a recession through reckless policies that have driven away investment and have jeopardized our future, with higher taxes on everything, on businesses, on property, on incomes, on payrolls, and now the largest tax increase in Alberta history, the multi-billion-dollar job-killing carbon tax that they did not mention in the last election. It is the single biggest lie in Alberta political history. And they've only just, a problem with this tax, it trickles down through and it cascades through the economy, and it hits the average Albertans the hardest, driving up the cost of doing everything, buying their groceries and heating their homes and filling up their gas tanks at the worst possible moment, and it's all economic pain and no environmental gain. No environmental gain. And they've hardly even started. They plan to raise it by 150%, partly because Justin Trudeau asked them to. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember the day when Alberta used to have premiers that were watchdogs for our interests. Instead, we now have a government that acts like a doormat for Ottawa, and that's wrong. That is wrong. Massive, on top of all of that, massive new regulations, higher labor costs, suing power producers, and a necessary royalty review. All of it together causing tens of billions of dollars of investment to flee our province, and with it, thousands of lost jobs. Now, the NDP would have us believe that we are just the passive victims of global commodity prices. But isn't it interesting? In the last year alone, $34 billion of capital has been pulled out of this province by international oil and gas companies and redeployed to other places in the same industry at the same prices. Total, the French company that sold out their interest in Alberta and then just recently reinvested in the gas fields in Iran, a dictatorship and state sponsor of terrorism. I never thought I would see the day when Iran was regarded as a safer investment climate than the province of Alberta. And by the way, while under the NDP, Alberta has fallen from the 15th most desired destination for investment in oil and gas to 44th. We've gone from 15th to 44th, while Saskatchewan has gone from 7th to 4th place with the same commodity prices. This is the difference that policy makes. It's the difference that politics makes, and that's why we need to fix our broken politics in Alberta. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, they are mortgaging our future on top of it. A province that was not long ago debt-free is now plunging into a sea of red ink, borrowing nearly $1 billion a month. That's $30 million a day, $1.2 million an hour, $2,000 every minute of every day. It's no wonder that our credit rating has been downgraded 5 times under the NDP, making it more expensive for us to borrow. This is a vicious cycle that Standard & Poor's says is going to leave us with a $94 billion debt by 2020. What a shame for a province, for a people who had made such tremendous shared sacrifices to have the strongest fiscal house in Canada, if not North America, and we're running towards $94 billion in debt. All of this means more tax dollars going to bankers and bondholders in Toronto and Zurich and New York, and less tax dollars available to go to schools and hospitals in Calgary and Cochrane and in Edmonton. You know, as Margaret Thatcher, I hope I haven't depressed you so far, folks. We'll get to the good part in a moment. But as Margaret Thatcher reminded us, the problem with socialism is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money to spend. Or as the Gipper Ronald Reagan quipped, socialism only works in 2 places: in heaven where they don't need it, and in hell where they've already got it. But friends, the deeper problem is this. The NDP's ultimate goal is to remake Alberta in its image. They don't like the idea of Alberta as the beating heart of free enterprise in Canada. That's why, for example, they're spending $200 million to buy new washing machines out of the healthcare budget. Why? This isn't going to help create a new bed or hire a new nurse. All of it so that they can move employees from the private sector into a union that will pay dues, a union affiliated with the NDP. That's why they're spending $50 million to move lab services from an efficient private firm to the state. None of this to improve public services, all of it to increase the population of people paying mandatory dues to NDP-affiliated unions. And friends, I stand with our hardworking public servants. We thank them and respect them for their good work. And they, as Albertans, understand that our ability to pay for those public services is dependent on a vibrant private sector wealth-creating economy, don't they? Don't we all? But, and this is just the last point on the NDP, I promise. The most obvious way that the NDP hopes to change who we are as Albertans is through the education system. And I hear that everywhere I go, including especially from teachers. They're preparing to attack Alberta's successful model of school choice. They're undermining parental authority, and they are rewriting the school curriculum in secret. We all know what this means: more teaching fads and political agendas in our classrooms. Now, have any of you seen the new outline of their new social studies curriculum? It is predictably riddled with politically correct themes like colonialism and oppression and climate change. But not to say that we shouldn't teach some of those things, but how about some balance? Because it does not include a single word about parliamentary democracy or confederation or Canadian history, Alberta history, or economic literacy, or the rule of law, or any of the key concepts that are necessary to an understanding of our society. But for me, here is the greatest scandal of this NDP government. Their draft K-12 social studies curriculum does not include a single word about Canadian military history. It's hard to believe. The NDP wants kids to graduate from high school never having learned a thing about Vimy Ridge or Juno Beach or the Battle of the Atlantic or any of the 118,000 Canadians who gave their lives in the defense of our country. What shameful ingratitude for those who gave their lives so we might live free. Not one word. So, friends, all of these and so many more are why we cannot afford the second term of this tax-raising, debt-quadrupling, job-killing, accidental NDP government. And that is why a year ago I launched this campaign to unite Alberta, saying on July the 6th of last year, and I quote, "There is only one way to ensure that we defeat the NDP in 2019 and get Alberta back on track. And that is to unite Albertans around a common cause, around a united, principled, compassionate, and diverse free enterprise party, a party characterized by a sense of hope, optimism, and opportunity, a party focused on the concerns and struggles of ordinary Albertans. That means both the Progressive, Conservative, and Wild Rose parties must put Alberta first." This was a year ago. "We must focus on the future, not the past, on what unites us, not what divides us. We must come together to form a single free enterprise party, and we must do so before the next election because Alberta can't wait." Well, your response tonight is the response that we heard resoundingly in every corner of the province. After that speech, I resigned my seat in Parliament, put on 80,000 clicks on my Dodge pickup, we call it the Unity truck, traveling to over 700 events in every corner of the province, from High Level to Milk River, from Grand Cache to Medicine Hat, meeting with tens of thousands of Albertans, couch surfing with supporters, thanks to those of you who let me stay at your place, and being inspired by the stories of both adversity and resilience of so many Albertans who rallied to the cause of unity. Friends, when we launched the Unity campaign, they said it couldn't be done. The critics said it would take too long, that it was too complicated, it wasn't legal. In fact, one party leader said that the Unity plan was all, quotes, gamesmanship that would create, quotes, confusion and disarray and could result in, quotes, 3 or 4 Conservative parties instead of one. That's what they said. But Alberta is and always has been the can-do province. This isn't a province where we look for excuses not to do some hard work. This is the province where we dig deep and we innovate to overcome challenges and, in the classic Alberta spirit, to get her done. And that is what we did. That is what a growing army of volunteers have done. Now, some in the PC party establishment did everything they could to stop the Unity momentum, but the grassroots will was just too strong, and we won 75% of the vote to get the PC party on the path to unity. And I want to thank all of you who were part of that successful campaign. And then, a week ago, we witnessed another miracle on the prairies, when both Progressive, Conservative, and Wild Rose members voted 95% to yes on unity. 95%! It doesn't get better than that, folks. And so thank you for making unity happen, for making history happen. A year ago, this was just an idea, an improbable plan. But now, I hold in my hands a letter from the Speaker of the Legislature recognizing the United Conservative Caucus as the official opposition of the Alberta Legislature. And I hold here a letter from the Chief Electoral Officer, signed this Thursday, recognizing and registering the United Conservative Party as an official party in Alberta. We did it. You did it. We did it. Right here. These two letters mean that hope is on the horizon. They mean that this accidental NDP government is living on borrowed time, that they will be... These letters mean that the NDP will be one and done. Friends, if we continue to work hard and win the confidence of Albertans, we will reverse the damage inflicted on this province, and we will renew the Alberta advantage. But now, friends, we have another important decision to make. Who will you choose to lead our united party to victory? Who has... That wasn't a trick question. I ask you, who has the right experience to lead a government from day one, especially in tough times? Who is best equipped to stand up for Alberta against Justin Trudeau? A future Conservative government, now hear me now, a future Conservative government will inherit a fiscal disaster and will have to move immediately to restore investor confidence in our province. We will have to embark on an ambitious program of reform that grows our economy, balances our budget, and modernizes our public services. This will be the most challenging time in Alberta government in at least 25 years. We need a leader with consistent Conservative convictions, who can withstand endless attacks without flinching, who has the political skills to unite our party while reaching out to broaden the tent and has a proven track record of leading major reforms within government. I know that I have those clear convictions because my friends on the left point it out every single day. And I don't apologize for it. And I have been blessed with the right kind of experience, which I believe has given me the temperament needed for the huge challenge ahead. And so today, in a spirit of servant leadership, I am announcing my intention to seek the leadership of the United Conservative Party of Alberta. Friends, a leadership election like this is just one big job interview where there are tens or hopefully hundreds of thousands of bosses, including all of you. And this will be my second one in a year. I should get my head examined. I quit my job to go without a salary for 11 months to run for leadership and then just to give it up 3 months later to run for another one. But we had to do it this way. We had to do it democratically. We couldn't cut any corners like they did back in 2014. We had to go deliberately and democratically through this process, and that is why the decision will now be in your hands. Now, and so because it's a job interview, I'm going to have to tell you a little bit more about myself. And I actually don't like talking about myself, but I guess I have to a little bit. So I'm going to tell you, I grew up in a small prairie town in Saskatchewan called Wilcox. Go Saskies. Wilcox is a summertime population of 224 people. And in the fall, it quadruples because Notre Dame College comes into session. And Notre Dame, as you might know, is a famous Canadian factory for hockey players. It's produced over 100 players who've been drafted into the NHL, and you can tell just by looking at me, I was not one of them. My dad and mom actually ran the school out there, and I'll tell you, I learned the good classic prairie values in that small village about hard work and personal responsibility, but also the importance of community and taking care of one another. And like so many other young Saskatchewanians, I ended up coming to Alberta as an economic refugee from the NDP. There's probably a few of you here, right? Yes. All right, and Alberta was our land of opportunity, and we're going to make it the land of opportunity again for other generations of Canadians. But I came here 25 years ago to help start what was then the Alberta Taxpayers Association. It became the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. And at that time, as you'll recall, government was growing and freedom was shrinking. Governments at all levels were raising taxes, running huge and growing deficits, racking up massive debts on future generations. Our provincial government was losing billions in failed schemes to intervene in the economy. Does this sound familiar? The conventional wisdom amongst the political and opinion elites was that Canadians would never tolerate fiscal restraint. But they were wrong. Movements like the Reform Party and the Taxpayers Federation began to give voice to the silent majority who were fed up with governments who were taking nearly half of their families' incomes. And then something remarkable happened in Alberta, and his name was the late, great Ralph Klein. Now, Ralph and I famously squared off in front of the TV cameras on a couple of occasions. But when he was wrong, he admitted it. And on issue after issue, he listened, took our advice, and turned it into government policy. I'll just tell you a classic Ralph story. One morning, I think it was about 1995, I had a press conference at the legislature and said we needed legislation to ban corporate welfare. I gave it the elegant name, the No More Boondoggles Act. You know, truth in advertising. And by about lunch that day, I got a call in my office at the Taxpayers Federation from the Premier. And he said, Jason, I heard about what your news conference is about this morning. I'd like to hear more about it. Can you come by the condo tonight and we'll have a beer and discuss it? So, yes, Premier, absolutely. I'll be over there. So Ralph and I sat down at his Edmonton condo. We had one or maybe 3 beers, or maybe I lost track. Who's counting? And he asked me some questions, and I answered, and he said, you know what, Jason, this seems to make a lot of sense. And a month later, the No More Boondoggles ban on corporate welfare was the law of Alberta. The same thing happened with the Taxpayer Protection Act that requires a referendum before a sales tax can be imposed on it, the Balanced Budget Act, the flat tax. And when I led a campaign to reform the then platinum-plated MLA pension plan, Ralph at first opposed any changes, but then he saw where the people were, and he ended up going further and scrapping the plan completely. Now, I learned in those days that if you had a good idea, backed by the people, it could be unstoppable, especially if you had a premier with a surplus of common sense. So, as president of the Taxpayers Federation, I went on to fight the same battle at the national level, pressing the Chrétien government to stop Canada from going over the fiscal cliff in the mid-90s. And when the Liberals released trial balloons about major tax increases in 1995, we sprang into action with a series of No More Taxes rallies across Canada. Tens of thousands of people came out unexpectedly. And in what now seems like a political miracle, the Liberals actually listened to Canadians for once. They cut spending, they balanced the budget, and eventually reduced taxes. So emboldened by these experiences, I decided to take the fight for more freedom to the front lines in Parliament. I did so in part because I wanted to promote unity amongst federal Conservatives to end the vote splitting between Reformers and PCs. And Mr. Manning asked me to start the heavy lifting out across the country and bringing together divided members of the Conservative family. But then, of course, eventually, two courageous leaders stepped forward, Peter MacKay and Stephen Harper. They decided with vision and courage to bury the hatchet, to look forward with confidence rather than to the past with bitterness. They realized that the future of Canadian conservatism, and in some ways our democracy, demanded unity through strong leadership. Leadership which led to the creation of the Conservative Party of Canada 14 years ago, and to the longest serving national Conservative government since John A. Macdonald in the 1800s. Now, that government wasn't perfect, but I think it was a pretty darn good government that cut the federal tax burden to its lowest level in 6 decades, that gave Canada the strongest economy in the G7 through the global crisis, that restored balance in our justice system, gave us a principled voice in world affairs, gave prairie farmers marketing freedom, scrapped the long gun registry, and did so much else to expand human freedom. I was honored, deeply honored, to play a role in that government. As Canada's longest ever serving Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, I implemented fundamental and really tough reforms to help new Canadians succeed while strengthening the fairness and integrity of the system. We eliminated massive backlogs that were forcing people to wait for a decade or longer for us to look at their application. We did more to help newcomers get their skills recognized so they could work at their skill level. But we also cracked down on abuse of our generosity, on fake asylum claims, on fake immigration marriages, on citizenship fraud. We emphasized not just the rights, but also the responsibilities of citizenship, the duty to integrate into this great country. If I were to sum it up in a sentence, we said that if you want to come to Canada and take your turn in the queue, to come here, to work hard and respect our rules, you're more than welcome. But we locked the back door for those who wanted to sneak into this country illegally. As Minister of Employment, I, for 2 years, launched what I call the Skills Agenda to encourage young people to pursue fulfilling lifetime careers in the trades and apprenticeships, helped to create and implement the Canada Job Grant. And as Minister of National Defence, I worked with our brave men and women in uniform, deploying them to fight the genocidal terrorists of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, and to deployed our military to Ukraine to strengthen that country's defenses. As chairman of the Cabinet Operations Committee, which coordinated government action on major issues and on crises, I learned a great deal about operating under stress. And as regional minister for Southern Alberta, worked with our colleagues to succeed in getting full per capita funding for Alberta healthcare transfers, which added $1 billion to this province's budget. But perhaps the most enriching challenge during that period was working with a great team to reach out to new Canadians and members of our cultural communities, turning hundreds of thousands of natural small C conservatives into big C conservatives. Now, it's true that I attended literally thousands of events, earning me the nickname of the Minister for Curry in a Hurry. Actually, Josephine, my friends in the Chinese community in Toronto nicknamed me the Smiling Buddha. As a result, I also got a couple of extra notches on the belt through all of that. But it's also true that in doing so, I was constantly inspired by the stories of so many new Canadians who had overcome adversity to make Canada their new home. And I am proud to say that over 3 elections, we doubled the Conservative vote amongst new Canadians and became the only centre-right party in the world to win a higher share of the votes of newcomers than native-born citizens. We did it nationally, and I commit to you, if I'm your leader, we'll do it here provincially too. And so, friends, I offer you this lifetime of experience, together with my proven leadership in fighting for unity over the past year. I offer you my passion, energy, work ethic, and proven leadership, in part because I really believe that this province needs not just somebody who can be premier on day one, but somebody who can stand up to Justin Trudeau's damaging policies that are hurting the province of Alberta. And I know Justin very well. He was my critic in opposition for 2.5 years. I'll let you in, just between us, I'll let you in on a little secret. After 2.5 years, he knew nothing more about immigration policy than the day he began. Friends, I'm sorry. If I am the honor of being your premier, I will not be distracted by the socks and the selfies. No, sir. And not only do we need to stand up to a federal government that is hurting Alberta now, like his father's government did 35 years ago, but we need a leader for Western Canada. We need a leader who will form alliances to stand up for our interests, but for other Canadians who are suffering under this national Liberal government. We need a leader who will stand up for our energy industry. When Justin Trudeau says he wants to shut it down, when he wants to shut down the oil sands and keep it in the ground, we need an Alberta premier who will stand up in both official languages and explain that as long as there is global demand for oil and gas, it is better that Canada, with the highest human rights, environmental and labor standards of any major oil and gas producer, be providing this supply than dictatorships and state sponsors of terrorism. And I think it would be pretty cool to have a leader who can go to Quebec and make the case for how Quebecers benefit from our oil and gas prosperity in Western Canada, through the and how to explain to Quebecers that they're burning often Saudi and Nigerian and Venezuelan oil instead of Canadian oil. Quebecers are good people, they just don't know this. Et nous pouvons avoir un Premier ministre albertain qui se battre pour nos intérêts économiques à l'échelle nationale, y compris au Quebec. We could have an Alberta premier who takes that argument right to the heart of Quebec and helps to advance national unity around our energy industry. So, friends, let me close by saying, with words that I said on July the 6th when we began this remarkable campaign over a year ago. I said then that this is a lot more than about a merger of two political parties. This is about uniting Albertans of all backgrounds and walks of life. If you feel abandoned by the PC governments of recent years, I hear you. But the time is now to move forward united. Join us. If you're a federal conservative who's never before been involved in provincial politics, we need you. Join us. If you're a nurse who wants more flexibility and innovation and less central control and bureaucracy in the healthcare system, join us. If you're a union member about to lose your job because of NDP policies like closing down our coal industry, join us. If you want strong, world-class environmental protection that does not jeopardize jobs and our standard of living, then join us. If you want to end the NDP's massive multi-billion-dollar carbon tax on everything, join us. If you believe that parents and not politicians should be ultimately responsible for kids and their education, then join us. If you are a hardworking Albertan who's never before been involved in politics, but you're concerned about the direction of our province, we need you. Please join us. This campaign has always been, and must be now, bigger than any individual. The time is now to move beyond egos, beyond nostalgia for the past, beyond recriminations and pointless division. It is about this province, her people, and their future. Together, we must restore Alberta as the economic engine of Canada. Together, we must begin the renewal of the Conservative movement right here in its heartland. Canada is counting on us to get this right. With strong leadership that is aligned with the democratic will of ordinary Albertans, we can do this. Our province and her people are going through a time of adversity. But united, we will get Alberta back on track for them. United, we will restore this province as a beacon of hope and opportunity for generations to come. And united, we will emerge, as in the words of our province's motto, once again, strong and free. God bless you, and God bless Alberta.